She leaned in close lips, barely moving. "Tomorrow, you'll be cut out of this family." I didn't blink. Didn't move. My hand still rested on the spine of the album I'd spent 3 months assembling. Linen cover. Silver trim. Every photo chosen cropped, restored. A gift for the rehearsal dinner. A gift she hadn't even glanced at. Lena smiled for the room. Raised her glass. Tilted her head toward Darren, as if she'd just said something warm. I stood still. The waitstaff passed behind me. Forks clinked. Someone's toddler shrieked. Darren was laughing with the best man across the table. He didn't look at me. I eased the album back into my bag. The dinner stretched another hour. Toasts. Slideshow. More laughter. I said nothing. Not out of fear. I just hadn't decided what to do with it yet. When it ended, Darren kissed my cheek. Too quick, like he had somewhere else to be. Lena didn't say goodbye. She was busy smiling at the photographer. I drove home with the radio off. My house was quiet. Always was. I placed the album on the dining table, took off my shoes, boiled water for coffee, then didn't drink it. I sat down and opened my phone. A missed text from Darren sent that morning. "Thanks for helping with the RSVPs, Mom. Means a lot." That was before the whisper. I stared at the carpet for a long time. My knees ached. My chest didn't. That part surprised me. By midnight, I'd folded the dress I planned to wear and placed it back in its box. The shoes, too. Darren had asked me to sit with Lena's family near the front. Said it would keep things smooth. I didn't belong in that row. I didn't belong anywhere near her. The album stayed closed. At 2:30 a.m., I turned on the porch light and sat in the armchair by the window. Cars passed every so often. The world kept going. No anger came. Just quiet. When dawn came, I stood and started making coffee again. My hands were steady. At 8:00, my sister Louisa called. I let it ring. I knew what she'd ask. Knew the guilt in her voice before she even spoke. By 10:15, the ceremony would begin. I didn't go. I watched the sky shift from pale to bright. Listened to my neighbor's sprinklers click on. Refilled my cup. Sat back down. At 11:06, my phone buzzed. Darren. "Where are you?" I didn't pick up. 3 more calls. 2 from him. 1 from Lena's mother. I turned the phone face down and opened the photo album. First page. Darren, age 3, covered in flour, grinning over a mixing bowl. He used to say he wanted to be a baker. Second page, our first apartment after his father died. Mattresses on the floor. Darren drawing on the walls with crayon. I'd left it there for weeks. Page after page. Soccer trophies. School plays. College move-in. Every smile, every milestone. My hands turned each page without hesitation. By noon, the phone had stopped ringing. The album stayed open. I didn't take the dress down. It stayed on the hook behind my bedroom door, zipped up, untouched. Ivory with simple lace at the collar. Not too formal, not too plain. I bought it 2 months ago, back when I still believed showing up meant something. The morning passed in pieces. Louisa knocked at 9:30. I didn't answer. She called through the door, voice soft, then sharper. Said it wasn't too late to change my mind. Said family was messy, but worth it. Said Darren would be heartbroken. I stood behind the curtain, holding my coffee, watching her car idle. She left after 15 minutes. By 10:00, the sun hit the driveway. The birds were louder than usual. I could hear faint music from the house across the street, someone getting ready for a graduation party. Life happening as scheduled. At 10:42, my phone rang. Darren. I let it ring. He called again, then texted. "Mom, please, just come for the ceremony. We'll talk later. Don't do this." But I wasn't the one doing anything. I sat in the kitchen with my back to the door and reread his message. 14 words. None of them an apology. None of them asking if I was okay. He didn't know what Lena said. Maybe he didn't want to. By 11:15, the calls stopped. I washed a plate, wiped down the counter, folded a dish towel I hadn't used. I moved through the house like someone cleaning up after a party they weren't invited to. By noon, the vows would be done. Photos taken, glasses raised. I imagined it. Lena in her dress, perfect and smug. Her mother glowing beside her. Darren smiling, saying things he'd rehearsed in the mirror. My seat empty. The whispers starting. Where's Elaine? Didn't she raise him alone? That must sting. I didn't flinch. I just kept moving. At 1:30, I microwaved soup I didn't finish. Turned on the TV without watching it. I pulled a throw blanket over my legs and sat in silence. At 2:00, the group photos would be happening. I pictured my sister standing off to the side, worried, scanning for me. Someone would ask where I was. Someone else would say she probably wasn't feeling well. Lena wouldn't correct them. By 4:00, the reception would be in full swing, the band playing something upbeat, glasses clinking, toasts being made. I wondered if Darren would mention me. Maybe a small nod, maybe not at all. I walked down the hallway to the guest room, opened the closet, pulled out an old cardboard box marked Gabriel. Inside his kindergarten diploma, the little fire truck he used to sleep with a Father's Day card. He once made me because you had to be both Mom. I sat cross-legged on the floor and read each item like they belonged to someone else. The doorbell rang once, then again, then silence. At 6:12, the sky began to change. The sun dipped behind the pine trees. Shadows stretched across the carpet. I stood and looked back at the bedroom. The dress was still hanging. They showed up without calling. I opened the door and found Lena holding a clipboard, Darren behind her, carrying a cardboard box. No hugs, no small talk. Just grabbing a few things, she said, already stepping inside. Darren avoided my eyes. They moved fast. Straight to the hallway closet. She opened the doors like it was her house. This dish set, Darren said it was his growing up right. It'll look great in the new kitchen. She stacked plates without waiting for an answer. He picked up a photo frame from the shelf. One of him at 10 arms around my neck, both of us laughing. I'll put this in my office, he said. My mouth opened. Closed. I followed them to the living room. Lena pointed. And this chair wasn't it from your father? That antique wood frame, I love how worn it is. Adds charm. It's not for show, I said. It was his reading chair. I know, she said, smiling like that made it hers. Darren lifted the chair without a word. They carried it out the front door. 3 more trips. Old serving trays. A brass lamp. My mother's pie tin bent on one side but still usable. I watched my house disappear in pieces. Bit by bit. No permission. Just momentum. This will really help us settle in, Lena said on the last trip. We're stretched thin after the wedding. She glanced at Darren. He nodded faintly, as if confirming a debt I owed them. I looked at his hands scraped from the box's ring, catching the light. I remembered when those fingers gripped my shirt at preschool drop-off, wouldn't let go. You could have called, I said. We didn't want to bother you, she answered quickly. Bother. They loaded the last box into her car. Darren lingered for a second near the doorframe. He glanced at me like he might say something, then didn't. You have our new address, right? Lena asked. We're not that far. Just west of Foxton. I didn't write it down. She waved. He didn't. The car rolled away. Inside, the house echoed. Rooms looked stripped, not empty, but hollowed. The kind of missing you feel more than see. I sat on the edge of the sofa. My hands rested on my knees. I stared at the corner where the chair had been. It wasn't the furniture. Not really. It was the way they walked in like owners. Like I should have expected it. Like nothing here was mine unless they left it behind. I made coffee. Didn't finish it. Opened the drawer where I kept extra photos. Flipped through until I found the ones from the old apartment the first year alone after Alan died. Darren on a thrifted couch holding a toy airplane. Behind him, that same chair. That same lamp. I set the photo on the counter and stood still for a long time. At dusk, I turned on the porch light. Locked the door. Walked through each room and took note what was gone, what remained, what they hadn't thought to touch. In the guest bedroom, I opened the closet again. The box marked Gabriel was still there. I brought pie. Pumpkin. From scratch. Same recipe I'd made every Thanksgiving since Darren was a boy. I even used the cracked ceramic dish they hadn't taken yet. Lena answered the door, smile already rehearsed. Oh, she said, her eyes flicking to the pie. Cute. She stepped aside without touching me. I walked in. Marla was already on the couch, sipping wine, talking loudly about airfare prices. The dining table was set for 10. No place cards, but only one seat left at the end near the kitchen. I placed the pie on the counter. No one said thank you. Darren appeared from the hallway, tie askew. Hey, Mom, he said. A quick side hug. He smelled like cologne I didn't recognize. You look tired, I said. He gave a half smile. Been a long week. Lena handed me a folded linen napkin. You don't mind the draft by the kitchen, do you? We just didn't expect everyone to actually show up. She walked away before I could answer. Dinner began with a toast. Marla stood up, glass-raised cheeks, flushed. To new beginnings. To young families. And to making space. Even when the house feels small. Polite laughter. Darren nodded. Lena glanced at me without really seeing me. Conversation flowed like I wasn't there. I passed dishes. Topped off drinks. Said little. Halfway through the meal, someone mentioned Darren's childhood, his old bike, the summer he broke his arm. I smiled, ready to add something. He was such a handful, I said. Oh, totally. Lena jumped in. But he's grown up so much since then, especially after we met. Marla added, It's amazing how much maturity comes once you leave the nest. She looked right at me. I reached for the water pitcher. My hand didn't shake. Then came the punch. Lena turned to the woman beside her and said, We've really turned the guest room into something special. We made sure it's cozy for everyone who visits, even family. Darren didn't correct her. Marla laughed. Well, as long as she RSVPs next time, right? Everyone chuckled. Except me. I kept chewing. There was cranberry on my plate. My mother's old recipe. They'd used my dishes, my glassware, my spice blend, and pretended I wasn't there. After dessert, I stacked plates and took them to the sink. Lena followed. You're quiet tonight, she said. I rinsed a fork. So are most guests. She hesitated, then smiled like I'd made a joke. We'll send you leftovers. I nodded. Darren didn't walk me to the door. I didn't expect him to. Outside, the wind had picked up. Dry leaves scraped along the pavement. I stepped over them and kept walking. At home, I took off my shoes and looked around. Still too much silence. Still too many memories stacked in corners. I went to the bedroom and opened my closet, found the envelope taped beneath the floorboard exactly where I left it 21 years ago. I pulled the door closed behind me and locked it twice. A week had passed since the holiday dinner. No call from Darren. No apology. Only silence. I told myself I'd stop looking at my phone, but habit won. That afternoon, his car sat in my driveway, idling. He'd come alone, he said, just to pick up some of his boxes from the garage. I watched from the kitchen window while he lifted a crate into the trunk, talking on his phone, distracted. When he went back inside for the second load, I stepped out. The driver's door was still open, the leather seat warm from the sun. A folder lay on the passenger seat, half-open papers sliding out. My name caught my eye first. Bold print. Power of attorney. I picked it up. My hands didn't tremble. Not yet. The signature at the bottom was mine. My handwriting. Except it wasn't. I read the clauses. Full access to bank accounts. Authority to act on my behalf in real estate transfers. Effective immediately. I stared at the page. A signature I never gave staring back at me. Behind me, Darren's footsteps. I slid the paper back into the folder and closed it just as he rounded the corner. Everything okay, Mom? He asked, wiping his hands on his jeans. I forced a smile. Fine. He nodded, grabbed the folder, tossed it onto the back seat. I'll be out of your way in a minute. I said nothing. He drove off with a quick wave. Inside, I sat at the kitchen table with my phone. My thumb hovered over his number, then moved past it. I scrolled to Seth's contact, the man who once helped Alan and me write our wills. Quiet, steady, always 3 steps ahead. It rang twice. Elaine. His voice was gravel now, but still familiar. I need to see you, I said. A pause. Today? Yes. Bring nothing, just yourself. I hung up, stood, and opened the hall closet. Pulled down the small, fireproof box I hadn't touched in years. Birth certificates, marriage license, deed copies. All still there. I spread them across the dining table. The paper smelled faintly of dust and ink. I remembered Alan's voice the day we'd hidden the envelope beneath the floorboard. Always keep one key nobody else knows about. I went to the bedroom, lifted the board, pulled out the envelope. Inside was the original trust document, my name alone at the top. Still intact. Still valid. I set it beside the other papers and poured coffee. My hands were steady now. For the first time in months, the silence around me didn't feel empty. It felt like a door waiting to open. I stacked everything neatly, slipped the envelope into my purse, and reached for my coat as the clock ticked toward our meeting. I handed him the envelope. Seth didn't ask questions. He flipped through the document slowly, glasses low on his nose, jaw tight. "This your original signature?" he asked. I nodded. He held up the forged one next to it, didn't speak for a moment, then slid both aside. "You did the right thing." I sat still, coat still on. The room hadn't changed in 20 years. Same books on the shelf. Same ticking clock above the window. He'd added a new photo on his desk, his daughter's graduation framed in brushed steel. I wasn't in any of the photos anymore, but I used to be. "I need to update the trust," I said. He leaned back. "Want to cut them out?" "Not yet." He tilted his head. "Then what I want them to believe, nothing's changed." His mouth twitched. "You always did play a longer game than people expected." I pulled a folded sheet from my purse. "Here's what I want to update. Living will, deed access, insurance. If I'm incapacitated, no one but me decides." He read it line by line. "You want to move the beneficiary too?" "Yes. For now, Seth, just hold it. Quietly. I'll let you know when." He nodded, took out a yellow legal pad, and began writing in that careful script I remembered from when Alan died. Back then, I'd sat in this same chair signing papers I didn't understand, too numb to ask. This time, I saw every line. When he was done, I signed again. My real name. My real pen. He slid everything into a new file folder, clipped it shut, and wrote a single word across the top. "Mercer. I'll file it Monday," he said. "Official channels. They won't see it coming." I stood to go. He looked up from his chair. "You always were underestimated." "People like it that way," I said. We walked to the door. He touched my shoulder, then stepped back. "Take care, Elaine." "I am," I said. Finally, in the car, I sat for a moment before turning the key. I opened the glove compartment and placed the new folder inside, beside the maintenance receipts and an old pair of sunglasses. Back home, I poured coffee plain and walked through the hallway slowly. I stopped in front of the framed photo near the hall closet, Darren at 16, holding a basketball sweat on his brow, grin wide. Next to it, a photo Lena had insisted we frame. The 3 of us stiff at a Christmas dinner table. My smile forced, hers too wide. I took both down, set them on the table, opened the drawer, pulled out an older photo. Darren at 5. Dirt on his knees, missing tooth, hugging me like he didn't want to let go. I framed it, hung it where the other two had been. The wall looked smaller now, but honest, real. I stood there for a long time, then turned, went to the kitchen and opened the drawer where I kept the blank note cards. Wrote a name on one, folded it twice, slipped it into my coat pocket. I arrived late on purpose. Lena had invited me 3 days earlier with one of her texts that pretended to ask, but didn't. Brunch at our place, Marla's bringing her famous salmon dip. Everyone's coming. Would love to have you. I brought fruit. Their new place looked like a showroom, sharp corners, cold light, no clutter. I handed the fruit to a young woman I didn't know and found my seat near the end of the table. 12 chairs. I recognized half the faces. Darren waved from across the patio. Glad you made it, Mom. I nodded, didn't speak. Lena was already mid-sentence holding court. She told me to use vinegar on the tile, she said to the woman beside her. Vinegar. Like I'm trying to clean a 1950s basement. Laughter. I swear our parents' generation would use duct tape to fix a tooth if you let them. More laughter. I reached for the water. My wine glass stayed full. Marla leaned in. Elaine, did you ever use vinegar on grout? Only when it worked, I said. Another laugh, this time a touch tighter. Someone changed the subject. Vacation plans? Flights? Credit card points? I passed the basket of croissants untouched. Lena chimed in again. We've been looking at guest communities for retirees. You know safety first. She didn't look at me when she said it. Darren chuckled. Yeah, they've got yoga and bingo. Not bad, right? I'm not sure I'd survive the bingo, I said, sipping the wine. Don't tempt me, Marla said. I've already told Lena if she doesn't lock me up by 70, I'm escaping to Mexico. I'd join you, I replied. But I've still got too much paperwork to do. Darren smiled at that. A small one. Confused. The server brought out eggs and toast. Everyone clapped like they'd just landed a plane. The woman beside me asked where I lived now. I gave the same answer I always had. Same house. Same block. Same windows I'd cleaned every spring for 23 years. She nodded politely, then turned away before I finished. I looked across the table. Lena's hand rested on Darren's. Her nails were perfect. Her control cleaner. They wanted me small. Grateful. Near enough to borrow from far enough to forget. I reached for a napkin and folded it slowly, pressing each corner flat. My wine glass still full. I didn't touch it. Marla raised her fork. We were just saying how nice it'd be to have one of those little cottages, safe, tidy, easy to manage. You ever think about that? Not really, I said. I already have what I need. Oh, but downsizing, she started. I said I already have what I need. It came out quiet, but clear. They paused. I placed the napkin beside my plate, untouched. I should get going, I said. You didn't eat, Darren said. Wasn't hungry. Lena stood. I'll walk you out. I let her follow me to the door. Her heels clicked too fast behind me like she wasn't sure if she wanted to catch up or stay behind. You don't have to take that stuff so personally, she said, once we reached the front. I don't. She blinked. I stepped outside. The sun had shifted. The trees across the street were losing their leaves. I reached into my pocket, touched the folded note card, and kept walking. I rang twice and waited. Carla Lynn answered in sweatpants hair, in a knot, glasses low on her nose. No handshake, just a nod and a gesture to come in. She locked the door behind me. Put everything on the table, she said. I did. A manila envelope, a thumb drive, and a notebook I hadn't opened since March. She skimmed the folder first. Power of attorney, 2 different signatures, 2 dates. Her lips tightened. You didn't sign this? She said. No, she nodded. They filed it anyway. I think they used it to access something. I don't know what yet. Carla tapped the paper. We'll find out. Next, the thumb drive. I'd copied texts, voicemails, calendar screenshots. Every time Lena referred to managing me, every time Darren forwarded something without checking, I'd saved it all. Carla plugged it into her laptop. They're not even trying to hide it, she muttered. This, she pointed to one text. This is borderline coercion. They used my name to refinance a property, I said. Without my consent. Did you keep any mail? I handed her 2 envelopes. One from the mortgage lender, one from the bank. My name listed as a guarantor. I never signed anything. She read quickly, flipping pages fast. This is enough for a formal complaint. Possibly fraud. I sat back, folded my hands. I'm not trying to destroy them, I said. I just want them to stop acting like I don't exist. Carla didn't look up. You don't have to destroy people to remove them from your access points. I liked the way she said it. Plain. Sharp. We moved on to the notebook. I'd recorded conversations word for word. I'd made a timeline. Carla read through the entries without comment, occasionally marking something with a blue pen. After an hour, she closed the folder. Here's what we'll do. We're going to start the paper trail. Quietly, discreetly. That means new powers of attorney, new account authorizations, new points of control. I'll write it all up. I nodded. You'll move the trust shift, your insurance change, your emergency contacts. You'll do it without telling a soul. I've already started, I said. She smiled barely. I'll prepare the red folder, she said. Everything in one place. When you're ready to use it, use it. Until then, keep smiling. I stood. She handed me back only the documents that wouldn't be used yet. Put these somewhere no one else can touch. I have a safe, I said. She locked the front door behind me. No hug, no goodbye. At home, I pulled the safe from under the hall cabinet, turned the dial, opened the lid. Inside, Alan's watch, our marriage certificate, and now these. I slid the new folder in and shut the door. Dinner was late that night. Just toast and fruit. I sat at the table and watched the red light on the coffee maker blink. I didn't turn it off. Upstairs, I packed a small bag. Just enough for a weekend. I didn't plan to go anywhere, but it helped. I folded the blank note cards into the side pocket and zipped it shut. I opened the envelope from the bank and felt my stomach drop. My name. My social security number. A property address I had never seen before. Mortgage approval stamped final. I called the number on the letter, waited through the music, asked for verification. The clerk on the line confirmed everything as if it were routine. Yes, Mrs. Mercer. You're listed as guarantor on this loan, she said. I thanked her, hung up, and sat at the kitchen table. The coffee had gone cold. They hadn't just forged a signature. They'd used me to buy something. I opened the laptop and logged into my account. Downloaded statements. Checked for automatic withdrawals, changes of address, new cards. My pulse slowed as I moved. Not panic anymore. Procedure. 2 more clicks and I saw a payment scheduled for next month. Large. Not mine. I called Seth. I need you to check something I said. His voice steadied. Bring me everything. Now. I printed the statements, slid them into a file, added the forged power of attorney, added the 2 envelopes Carla had flagged. The folder was heavy when I closed it. The drive to Seth's office was short. We didn't talk much when I arrived. I spread the papers across his desk. He picked up the mortgage, first reading line by line, jaw tightening. They've tied your name to a property trust, he said finally. Looks like Lena's family's holding company. No disclosure to you at all. Can they do that? Not legally, but they can file it and hope you never see it. He compared signatures, checked dates. This is coordinated. They've been setting it up for months. I sat across from him, my hands folded. How much 7 figures if the terms here are accurate? You're their collateral. The words settled in the room like a brick. He took out a notepad. We can file an immediate notice of dispute with the county registrar. Freeze the property record. It'll send a warning shot without public noise. I want to do it, I said. He scribbled instructions. Start by pulling every account. We'll make copies. We'll also file an affidavit about the forged power of attorney. I nodded. I've already begun pulling the accounts. Good. He paused, met my eyes. Keep moving like this. Quiet. Precise. No accusations yet. They're not expecting resistance from you. I thought of Lena at the brunch table mocking vinegar and bingo halls. I thought of Darren carrying out my father's chair. I thought of the empty guest room she'd called cozy for visitors. They think I'm soft, I said. They're wrong, Seth replied. We finished the paperwork. I left with a new set of forms copies of everything notarized. At home, I laid the documents out on the dining table in neat rows. Mortgage, power of attorney, bank statements, each page like a photograph of a theft. I turned on the coffee maker again and sat down, pen in hand, writing dates, amounts, names. The picture forming on the paper looked like a map, every line pointing back to Lena and her family's holding company. I slipped the new stack into the red folder from Carla and carried it to the safe. Turned the dial. Closed the door. Then I picked up the phone and called Carla to tell her we were ready for the next step. Seth called at noon. I checked the old files, he said. You'd better come in. I brought the original trust paperwork. Alan's signature still crisp mine below his. It had been sitting in a drawer for over 2 decades untouched, but not forgotten. Seth laid 2 versions side by side. One dated 2002, the other 2014. The newer one, Darren's copy, had a few amendments, but not the one they needed most. They never removed you, he said. I stared at the page. You're sure they tried to write around you, not through you? But the trust states any beneficiary change must be signed by all current parties. Alan didn't leave them an override clause. And you never signed your rights away. I read the paragraph twice. No loopholes. No backdoor. Which means Seth tapped the original. You're still legally co-trustee. Every transfer, every withdrawal, every amendment requires your signature. They've already moved money, I said. Illegally. If they pushed it through under false authority, we can unwind it. I leaned back, folded my arms. They didn't even check. They assumed you'd signed, or that you wouldn't notice, or that you wouldn't fight. They were wrong, I said. Seth smiled tightly. What do you want to do? I didn't answer right away. I thought of Darren standing in my living room lifting boxes of my life. I thought of Lena at the brunch table laughing about assisted living. I thought of the photo frames I'd taken down and the one I'd put back up. I want to lock it, I said. Done. We'll freeze all trust activity. No disbursements, no restructuring, not without your explicit notarized approval. He handed me a form. I signed it initials tight and centered. He slid it into a sleeve and pressed the edges flat. They'll know when they try to access funds. Let them, I said. Back home, I opened the safe again and added the new documents. I checked the locks on the door, closed the blinds, made a fresh pot of coffee. That night, I slept with the folder on my nightstand. In the morning, I got up early, printed 4 letters, 1 to the bank, 1 to the county office, 1 to the lender, 1 to the holding company tied to Lena's family. Each one said the same thing: access denied. Activity frozen. Trustee signature not authorized. I mailed them all before 9. At noon, my phone buzzed. Darren. I let it ring. At 2, Lena texted. We need to talk. Urgent. I turned the phone face down and poured another cup of coffee. I set the red folder on the table beside me, opened it, read every page again. Nothing missing, nothing overlooked. They'd tried to erase me with ink. But the deed was still mine. I brewed the coffee strong. Darren arrived 10 minutes late, dressed like he'd come from a client lunch. Suit jacket, no-tie sunglasses still hooked on his shirt. "Smells good," he said, walking in like nothing had shifted. I poured him a cup, black. No cream, no sugar. He used to like it that way. He didn't ask if I remembered. We sat at the kitchen table. No pie, no snacks. Just 2 mugs and a single folder between us. "I've been thinking," I said. "You're starting a new chapter. Lena's business, the house, everything changing." He nodded, cautious. "A lot's moving, fast. I thought it might be time to set clearer terms for what we share. Boundaries, expectations." He sipped, didn't answer. I opened the folder, pulled out a crisp 2-page document. No legal jargon, just names, dates, access revocations, and acknowledgement of past transfers, signed, witnessed, and timed to take effect immediately. "I'd like us to be clear about where things stand," I said. He glanced at it, skimmed fast. I watched his eyes stop at familiar words: personal assets, no future claims account closure property designation. "You had this drawn up?" he asked. "I had it reviewed." "You don't trust me? I trust Papermore." He sat back, stared at the mug. "I'm not trying to hurt you," I added. "I'm trying to protect what's mine and keep us from making worse mistakes." He looked down again, jaw working. "I just thought," he started, then stopped. "What?" "That you'd want to stay connected." "I do. Just not entangled." His hand moved to the pen on the table. He didn't ask questions. Didn't push. Maybe he thought it was a formality. Maybe he thought his name still opened every door I had. He signed. I slid the document back into the folder and snapped it shut. "You want a copy?" I asked. He shook his head. "No, I trust you." I nodded. "I'll have one sent anyway." He stood, finished his coffee. "Thanks for the talk." At the door he turned. "Lena wants to meet, just to clear the air." "I'll think about it," I said. He left. No hug, no backward glance. I carried the folder to the desk, scanned the pages, saved them twice, Cloud and Drive. I made 3 copies, filed one in the red folder, dropped another into the safe, sealed the third in an envelope for Seth. By the time the sun dipped low, the kitchen was quiet again. Coffee cold, table clear, chair still pushed back from where he'd sat. I left it like that, just for a moment, just long enough to remember the look on his face as he signed. I rang the bell and waited. Lena opened the door with a smile too tight to last. "Elaine," she said, stepping aside. "Come in." The house was staged like a magazine. Clean counters, soft lighting furniture that looked untouched. Except I had touched it. Years ago. In my own house. "I'm glad you came," she said, leading me through the hallway. "We've been meaning to have you over since the move. Things just got hectic." I nodded, didn't answer. We passed the entry bench. Mine. The one from my old foyer, refinished in white. She had added a cushion, but I knew the scratch on the back leg. Darren made it with his toy hammer when he was 4. The dining room table sat under a blown glass light fixture. Not mine, but the chairs were. I ran my hand over one thumb resting on the chipped edge I'd glued twice over the years. Still held. Lena kept talking. We had some pieces reupholstered. Just didn't want to waste what we already had. I counted 5 items they'd taken without asking. Maybe more. We turned into the kitchen. My mother's spice rack repainted. The iron skillet seasoned differently now, but still mine. The mixing bowls stacked in reverse order. "I didn't realize how much you'd passed down," she said. I kept my voice flat. "I didn't." She blinked. We moved to the living room, my father's lamp. The quilt I'd made the year Darren graduated college. The bookshelf Alan had built it with his own hands. I took note of each. Not out loud. Just quietly, like a ledger. One by one, frame by frame. Lena offered tea. I declined. "We're hoping to refinance next month," she said too casually. "Interest rates are crazy right now, but Darren thinks it's still worth it." The lender asked for updated ownership docs. No big deal. We'll probably need your signature just to smooth it over. Technicality. I looked at her. Just bring it by when you're ready, I said. She smiled again, thinking she'd won something. Before I left, she insisted on showing me the guest room, the one she'd redesigned. In case you ever want to stay overnight, she said, voice light. The bedspread was new, but the dresser wasn't. It had been mine, once tucked in my hallway full of winter scarves. I opened a drawer. Empty now. We haven't really used it yet, she said. I closed the drawer. You will. She tilted her head, uncertain. Back in the foyer, I paused by the entry bench again. Let my hand rest on the edge for a moment. Thanks for coming, she said. I walked out without replying. At home, I opened my files and cross-checked the list. Deeds, receipts, registrations. 4 items still in my name. 3 more I could prove purchase. 1 Allen's bookshelf, technically gifted but never documented. I marked them in red. Then I emailed Carla, told her to begin the transfer claims. Quiet. No rush. I didn't want them all back, just the ones that mattered. Just enough to remind them not everything forgotten is lost. I declined the invitation. The envelope came thick and floral script, printed on cream cardstock. Garden Brunch and Business Showcase, it read. Lena's name embossed. Darren's initials smaller, tucked beneath hers like an afterthought. I wrote a brief note, wishing you a successful event. Unable to attend. Elaine Mercer. I sealed it. No extra words, no apology. Sent it back the same day. By Friday, I started hearing things. Louisa called first. They were whispering about you, she said. Some contract, a file someone forwarded. Something about the trust. I didn't answer. They said you locked it, that Lena's family's name was pulled from a deal. I said, that's accurate. She paused. Was that on purpose? I didn't answer that either. By Sunday, Seth confirmed it. One of Lena's former associates leaked the lender response. Your signature refusal? The freeze? It's making its way through her network. Did you release anything I asked? No. Someone else did. Probably someone tired of being talked down to. I smiled. Just a little. The party went ahead anyway. Photos landed online that night. White tents, champagne flutes, a rented harpist near the hedges. Lena beaming in pale blue silk. Darren behind her, smile thin. In one picture, I saw the garden bench from my old porch. Painted now, but still leaning slightly on one side. I zoomed in on the chipped slat. Still there. I didn't feel pride or bitterness. Just confirmation. The next morning, a woman I barely knew emailed me. Saw the news about the trust. Good for you. No subject line, no fluff. Just that. I opened the safe, checked the red folder. All pages intact. Nothing missing. Carla's notes had grown margins full of arrows and timestamps. 3 items now under official review. 2 objects being recalled through legal transfer. 1 deed frozen pending investigation. No noise. Just movement. I called the post office. Updated my delivery hold. Then canceled it. I wasn't hiding. I spent the afternoon repotting 2 houseplants. One had nearly died last winter. Now it was thick with new leaves. I didn't say anything to it, just gave it water, turned it toward the light. At 6:45, the doorbell rang. I didn't answer. No message was left. At 8:12, Darren texted, "We need to talk. Tomorrow." I let it sit. Then I typed one line, "I'm available at noon. My house. No emojis. No mom. Just business." Lena called before noon. Her voice was bright, clipped. "Elaine, we're finalizing some paperwork for the house. Just a small refinance to consolidate things. Could you stop by and sign? It's a formality?" I said yes before she finished. Calm? Neutral. "I'll swing by later," I said. "Perfect," she replied, all ready, moving on to something else. "We'll have it ready." I hung up and stared at the phone. My coffee had gone cold again. I poured it out, brewed a fresh pot, and sat at the table. The red folder lay open in front of me. Carla's handwriting curved across the top page. Claim ready. Needs signature. I picked up the pen. Not theirs. Mine. I signed the claim instead. Within an hour, Carla had filed it electronically notice of interest attached documentation. Frozen deed activity pending investigation. Quiet. Clinical. No press releases. No leaks. Just a barrier sliding into place. At 2:00, I drove to their house. Lena met me at the door papers, in hand perfume too strong. She led me into the kitchen where the chairs, the lamp, the spice rack, all still mine, stood like props on a stage. Here it is, she said, sliding the packet toward me. Just your signature right here. Darren's already signed. I flipped through it slowly, page after page. Adjustable rate refinance, transfer of equity. My name listed as releasing party, everything tied to my trust position. You've been busy, I said. It's just paperwork, she replied, smiling. We'll be out of your hair soon. I'll need to review it, I said. Standard practice. Her smile faltered. It's just a signature, Elaine. I'll take it home. Get it back to you tomorrow. A pause. Then she forced another smile. Of course. I slid the packet into my bag and stood. Thank you for thinking of me. She watched me walk to the door. We're on a deadline, she said softly. I understand. Back in my car, I placed the packet on the passenger seat and stared at it for a long moment before starting the engine. At home, I added it to the red folder. My claim already on file meant their refinance would bounce. They'd get a notification within 24 hours. A technical error, a flagged trustee signature, nothing personal, just procedure. I sat back and let the quiet fill the room. My phone buzzed at 6. Darren again, no voicemail. Then Lena's text. Need that signature tonight. Please confirm. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the safe, double-checked the stamped confirmation from Carla, and slid it back into place. I poured another cup of coffee, walked to the window, and watched the streetlights flicker on one by one. The air smelled like rain. Tomorrow at noon, Darren would come as planned, and we would finally speak face to face. I arrived 5 minutes early. Louisa met me at the door. She squeezed my hand harder than usual. You sure? She whispered. I nodded once. Inside, the dining table stretched longer than I remembered. 12 seats, fresh flowers, polished silver. Lena had outdone herself. Darren stood near the head wineglass in hand, mid-sentence when he saw me. Mom, he said, surprised. You made it. I said I would. He pulled out a chair near the end for me. I didn't take it. I won't stay long, I said. Lena turned from the stove, all smiles. We're just about to serve. Sit, please. I stayed standing, reached into my bag, pulled out a single folder. Red. Unlabeled. I brought something, I said. The room quieted. Glasses stilled. Marla looked up from her phone. A cousin paused mid-sip. Darren's smile wavered. I set the folder on the table, flipped it open. I wanted to clarify a few things, I said, voice steady, since there's been some confusion. On top, the revocation of the forged power of attorney. Signed, notarized, filed. Below that, mortgage freeze confirmation. Documented proof of the trust status. My name still active. Third, screenshots. Lena's texts, her emails, her name on the lender application, her signature without mine beside numbers that didn't belong to her. I said nothing else. Darren leaned forward, read the first page. His jaw locked. Lena moved quickly, scanning the top sheet. When she reached the second, her hand jerked. Her wine glass tipped, slipped from her fingers, hit the floor hard. Shattered. No one moved. Lena stood, frozen, hands still, hovering in the air. Marla cleared her throat. Elaine, I'm sure this could have been... No, I said. Just that. I looked at Darren. He didn't speak. He didn't blink. These documents have already been filed, I said. This is just a courtesy. Louisa reached for my elbow. Come sit. I'm fine. I closed the folder, left it there, didn't take a bite, didn't pour a drink. I'm heading out now, I said. No one stopped me. Not even him. The hallway echoed behind me, my shoes loud against the tile. When I opened the front door, the wind hit first sharp, cold, clean. I walked out without looking back. At the curb, I opened my car, climbed in, locked the door. Inside the house, no one had followed. For the first time in a long time, I drove home without checking the mirror. I shut off my phone for 2 days. When I turned it back on, the family chat was dead. No new photos, no birthday reminders, no emoji chains from Marla, just a scroll of silence. Darren didn't call. Lena didn't text. But her name popped up anyway. A public post. A picture of her holding a coffee cup captioned, "Sometimes silence is the loudest betrayal." 17 likes, 3 comments. All vague. I didn't reply. I didn't scroll. I logged into the portal and finalized the address update. Mail forwarding confirmed. New P.O. box secured separate from everything they knew. I wanted a clean line between noise and peace. At the post office, the clerk slid the key across the counter. "Starting today," he said. I nodded, pocketed it, and walked out without a word. That night I made soup. No recipe. Just what I had. The house was quiet. Not heavy. Just quiet. A different kind. I sat with the bowl in my lap and watched the news volume low. Halfway through, Louisa called. "They're spinning," she said. "I know. They told Marla you forged everything, that you're unstable, that you've always had issues." "Let them," I said. A pause. "You okay?" "Yes." She waited a beat, then said, "Good." We didn't stay on long. Afterward, I sat at the kitchen table and pulled out a folder. Not red, just plain manila. Inside lists, inventory, the real kind. What I owned, what I'd transferred. What was still in play. I drew a line through 3 entries. Done. Verified. Locked. The wind picked up outside. A branch tapped against the side window. I didn't flinch. Upstairs, I packed a small box, winter scarves, framed photos, 2 sweaters I hadn't worn in years. I labeled it Keep. Next to it, I placed another donate. I didn't need more space. Just fewer shadows. By morning, my coffee brewed strong, clean. I sat in the chair by the window and watched the mail truck drive by. No letters, no summons, no knock. The silence stayed, and for once it felt like mine. Seth called just after 8. They tried to file, he said. Probate petition, fraud, misrepresentation, the whole performance. I didn't ask who wrote it. I already knew. They didn't get far, he added. Lena doesn't have standing. She's not named on anything that matters. And Darren? I asked. Silent. His name's still on the mortgage, though. Which means they got the notice this morning. I hung up. No questions left. By noon, Lena posted again. A black square. No caption. Just drama. I stared at it for 2 seconds, then closed the app and went back to my receipts. One envelope came that afternoon marked urgent. Addressed to Darren Mercer. Forwarded to my P.O. box by mistake. I didn't open it. I slid it into a plastic sleeve and set it aside. The postmark said enough mortgage lender second notice 30-day default window. I boiled water, stirred pasta. 8 standing at the counter. At 6:42, a knock. 3 firm taps. I opened the door. Darren stood there, tired collar, wrinkled something folded in his hand. They sent this to your box, he said. By accident. He held it out. I didn't take it. I know what it is, I said. He hesitated. They're threatening foreclosure. They're not threatening, I said. They're executing procedure. He looked down, then back up. Why are you doing this? I'm not doing anything. I'm holding the paper. You signed the rest. She said it wouldn't touch you. he muttered. And you believed her. He stepped back. You could still… No, I said. I can't. He didn't argue. The envelope stayed in his hand, unopened. He looked smaller than I remembered. I didn't think you'd fight back, he said. I didn't think you'd forget who raised you. That landed harder than he expected. His jaw tensed. He nodded once, turned, and walked back to his car. No shouting, no last words, just footsteps retreating over cold pavement. I closed the door, locked it, sat down with the binder and made one final note. Attempted countersuit filed by third party. No legal traction. Let it sit. I placed the binder back in the drawer, turned off the light. Let the silence settle where it wanted. I changed the locks first. The locksmith arrived just after 9. No questions. No small talk. 20 minutes front and back done. I watched through the window as he tossed the old deadbolts into his toolbox without a second glance. Want a new code for the keypad? He asked. Yes. He handed me a slip of paper. I shredded it after he left. Next, the bank. I logged in, found the joint account Darren opened during the estate transition, the one he said was just for emergencies. I'd let it sit too long. I moved the balance every dollar into a new account under my name only. Then I closed it. No alert sent. Just silence. By noon, the envelope arrived. Cream-colored, scripted, a birthday card. Darren's handwriting on the front. The same way he used to label his school folders. I didn't open it. I returned it to sender. Wrote 3 words across the back. Not at this address. I walked it to the mailbox myself. Let the sound of the closing lid finish the sentence. Back inside, I cleared out the side drawer. Canceled 2 subscriptions. Changed passwords. Made a list of what still needed to go, small things. Lingering access. Digital leftovers. By 3, I had sorted every login, every pin, every tie that once felt too tangled to cut. All changed. All mine now. I sat on the couch and looked around. The bookshelf still held Alan's tools. My father's lamp sat by the armchair untouched. A new plant stood by the window, healthy growing, needing nothing but quiet and time. The next call was to Carla. It's done, I said. She didn't ask which part. I heard her scribble something. Want to go? Final yes. I'll file the closure notice this week. By Monday, it's sealed. All they'll get is a letter saying access denied. I nodded, though she couldn't see me. That's all I need. We hung up. I poured a glass of water, no ice. Sat in the kitchen with my back to the window. The light shifted slowly across the tile. At 6:17, my phone buzzed again. No name, just the number. I didn't answer. I pressed block and slid the phone across the table. In the drawer, I found the old garage remote, still wrapped in tape with Darren's initials on it. I walked outside, opened the bin, and dropped it in. The lid slammed shut. Final. I filled the kettle, waited for the boil. No footsteps above. No hallway noise. No one asking for anything. Just steam rising clean and quiet. I opened the cabinet, reached for the mug chipped on one side handle, smooth from use, the one with the words, "Still the mother." I poured the coffee, sat down. The table was mine, bought secondhand, sanded, smooth, no one else's fingerprints. The light hit it differently in the mornings now. I didn't mind the silence. It wasn't emptiness. It was space. No new texts, no missed calls, no Lena asking for help, no Darren checking in. The group thread hadn't revived. Marla had gone quiet after a single vague message, "Family's complicated." I hadn't responded. I sipped slowly. Outside, a delivery truck passed. A neighbor's dog barked once, then stopped. I heard the fridge hum, the kettle click off. Nothing else moved. I pulled out the newspaper, read the headlines, marked a recipe I'd probably never make, folded the page just to keep my hands busy. Then I leaned back and looked around. Everything in the kitchen was where I wanted it. Nothing borrowed, nothing taken, Nothing claimed in someone else's name. I opened the drawer, checked the binder one last time. All pages filed, all accounts closed. Trust sealed, mortgage untangled. No loose threads. A letter had arrived yesterday from the lender. Final release. Default resolved not by payment, but by legal severance. They couldn't use my name anymore, not even to ask. I'd scanned it, saved a copy, and tucked it in the back of the folder. Now it sat untouched. I washed the mug, dried it with the towel by the sink, placed it back in the cabinet right side facing out. Still the mother. Not a role, not a duty, just a truth. One that no longer cost me anything. I opened the blinds. Let the light in. The sun came through, slow and gold, sliding across the floorboards like it had somewhere to be. I didn't rush it. Just stood there, let it land on my face, warm and clean. The window faced east. It always had, but I hadn't stood there like this in years. Not without waiting for someone. Not without trying to be needed. I pulled the chair from the corner. Sat. Let my feet rest flat on the ground. The drawer beside me stayed closed, but I knew what was in it. The final deed, filed, sealed, mine. No cosigner, no conditions, no Darren, no Lena, no contingencies hidden in a margin. Just my name, clean, undisputed, stamped. I hadn't told anyone, not Carla, not Seth, not Louisa. That part was for me. I'd bought out the remaining shares, quietly, legally, without confrontation, just paperwork and time. The house was mine in every way now. Name, title, intention. I stood, made coffee, used the same chipped mug, poured slowly, sat again. Across the street, a young couple walked a dog. The woman laughed. The man leaned in. The leash stretched and bounced. None of them looked at the house. No one looked for me. That was fine. The mailbox flag stayed down. No bills, no warnings, no surprises. I folded the dish towel over the oven handle, wiped the counter, set the binder on the shelf, third one from the bottom between gardening books and a folder of clipped recipes. It fit there like it belonged. I walked through the hallway slowly, touched the frame on the wall, Darren at 5-tooth missing arms around my neck. That one stayed. I passed by the door, the one no one had knocked on since the silence began. I didn't open it. Instead, I went to the room I'd cleaned out last. The one that used to hold boxes of favors, old linens, dishes loaned and never returned blankets, meant for guests who never stayed. Now it held space, a chair, a lamp, a rug, nothing borrowed. I sat again, faced the window, sipped the coffee while the light moved east to west across the floor. No voices filled the house. No one asked what was next. And for once, I didn't answer.